Hello, this is Eric Miskell with EMSNOW, and welcome to this edition of EMSNOW Up Close. Today, I am speaking with John McKay. He's the President of Sales and Purchasing with Freedom USA. Freedom, of course, is a global distributor of electronic components and supply chain solutions. John will tell us more about the company, though, and give us some insight into what's going on in this current environment we're all struggling through. So, John, welcome. Good to have a chance to talk to you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, listen, why don't we begin by allowing you to introduce yourself and Freedom for the benefit of the audience?
Sure. I'm John McKay, and I'm the President of Sales and Purchasing. Freedom's been around about 21 years. I've been here 6. I came from another large independent distributor to try to move Freedom into more of a stocking distributor, cost savings, PPV program, lead time buy type distributor. We shifted very quickly from, being this hard to find, obsolete IC semiconductor distributor, which is kind of an obsolete type of strategy. And we had really good success because I wanted to be more of a boutique style distributor. There's been a lot of consolidation in the market over the past 15 years, and I feel like customers were running out of options on who they could buy from. So things were going well for a couple of years, and then we got hit with a shortage allocation back in 18 with DRAMs and passives. So all the parts that we were offering customers on lead time buy all of a sudden disappeared. So we've focused more on trying to support customers with higher prices for a shortage opportunity. Picked up a lot of new customers, and we're able to kind of demonstrate our quality process with the components we're able to support. We kept hiring and hiring, and we really had tremendous growth. And then 19 kind of dipped a little bit. So, had to change our strategy back to lead time buys again. I've been doing this since 1991, and I've never seen a market like this ever in my life. It's unbelievable. Back in the 90s, we had, hiccups. You had, through-hole packages that converted to surface mount packages, and you'd see some, supply constraints and shortages. And then you had, video RAMs and DRAMs and so forth. Here comes, 2000, and with, Nortel and Cisco gobbling up the market, we had this huge allocation, but it was really more confined to, one particular commodity or two, and, networking. Today, it's across the board. It's really interesting when I, turn on the news and you've got, governments trying to address this problem, either with, shipping and logistics, the ports, to what we're seeing now.
Yeah. And bringing out the National Guard. That's always my favorite, government solution. So listen, Freedom, recently has made some announcements about new franchised product lines. Tell us about that. Sure.
People like to put labels on our channel, brokers, independents, global distributors, and we really try to just say we're a distributor, and we broker parts, and it's not a bad word if you have a good quality process and a good quality supply chain. Up until the pandemic and the shortage, 92% of all our product, had some sort of lineage to the OCM, so we didn't feel we had to test it. If it didn't, it always went through testing regardless of the customer's requirements. The pandemic changed that, and now we test everything because we don't want to take a risk. Regardless of where it came from, we still test it. But prior to the shortages, we really don't want to bring in a bunch of franchise lines and compete with the big guys because they're $10 billion in components. We're under 200 million. So the lines that we brought on, we were only bringing on if we felt it would add value in the supply chain. It was a solution to the customer. The first one we brought on was anti-stat because everybody's using static bags. Even our competitors, we sell them to. We brought in mercury because they were a good choice for crystals and able to redesign for obsolescence. OptiFuse, it's a great line. Everybody's using fuses. Just brought in top light LEDs, and especially because of the allocation, we were able to order offer shorter lead times, and that's been a viable solution for us as well.
Okay. Now, you alluded to it in your first comments there, that you're seeing the market that we're in right now is you've never seen anything like it since you started in early 90s. How would you characterize? What are you seeing in the market? What are the struggles that you're seeing?
It's the wild, wild west. It's literally, my colleagues kind of joke that I don't sleep, and I comment that there's plenty of time for that when I'm dead. But right now, the market's hot, and I get up at 3 a.m. and I'm dealing with our offices, around the world, but specifically Asia, and trying to buy parts today is like an auction. And I over the last month, I was buying up a certain series, and the parts started out at $12. When I finished buying them in a week, I was paying up to $85. And customers are screaming about the enormous PPVs that they're paying, and it's hard. And my vice president, John McKay, and I spend hours daily on the Zoom calls with customers trying to walk them off the ledge, because they're not happy, and they don't understand in some cases. I will say they've shifted now, and customers are moving very quickly, because I tell them, if you take 3 days to think about this, your price is going to quadruple if they're available. And that's really, I think, people buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. And once you finally earn that trust, then it moves a little bit, swifter. But initially, it's hard to swallow.
Yeah. So how is their buying behavior changing, or is it at all in this?
It is. It's changing a lot, because go back 5 years ago, you couldn't get somebody to pick up the phone, and now I can't stay off the phone. Everybody wants to talk about it. But the customers are, especially the OEMs, the contract manufacturers are kind of stuck, because they have to get the sign off from the OEM on the price change. So we've had numerous conference calls with customers, and at first everybody's trying to figure out, when is this going to end? And personally, I didn't think it was going to last through this year. The demand is strong, and when the demand's strong, it's you can really count on the shortages. Customers now are coming to us and saying, we want to give you X amount of money and almost free spending, because we want to bond parts for a year, because we need assurance of supply chain. If we don't have these parts next summer, it doesn't really matter. So they're buying them now, even though they might be able to get parts cheaper next year.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, are you seeing any difference across the industry sectors? I'm sorry? Are you seeing any difference in the impact of this environment on the different industry sectors, and I'm talking about the product sectors, right? Not the component sectors.
No, I mean, it's really, everything is on allocation right now. I mean, you see inflation is across the board, wherever you go. I mean, I was in a Starbucks, and the cardboard, carry cases are on allocation. Every commodity, I feel like every commodity that, we touch, there's an issue with it. So because we've become a global marketplace, everything's dependent on something else. And, substrates now, they're saying, are on allocation from 2023, possibly 2026. I think that, the more technology we develop, the harder this is going to be to keep up with.
Mm-hmm. But but the flip side of that on the technology is, hopefully the technology is part of the solution to this, right? Hopefully something's happening. And there's a lot of discussion about maybe the supply chain is so broke that it needs to be reconfigured and restructured, and maybe some changes need to happen in the way that traditionally parts have been handled like this. What's your opinion?
Well, I think it is changing. I mean, you see right now, TI is taking customers direct. I mean, they've got a direct format. They've disengaged with most of the franchise distributors, and I think that I think franchise, it's a tough spot to be in, because back in 2000, everybody got stuck with inventory, and then they came out with lean technology, so everything was just in time, and everything was NCNR. So the big franchise distributors, they don't want to carry a ton of inventory, because the stockholders want to know what's going on with their money, and so they're doing everything just in time. So whenever there is an increase in demand, that's where this bottleneck happens. So I see a lot of manufacturers trying to bring customers direct and cut out the distributors. And obviously, we're not going to be that big or in that situation. I foresee us being more of a boutique style distributor for the middle guys. The big guys are getting supported direct, and I can't compete with that. From working capital standpoint, et cetera. But the mid-tier CMs, OEMs, I feel like we're a good solution. We are bonding inventory for a year or longer. We're doing scheduled orders. I feel like we're trying to find where there's a need or solution for us, and we'll fit in. There's very few options for customers anymore because of all the consolidation. So we're trying to see if we can fit a need where there's fit value where there's a need.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me about the quality side of it. I mean, during all of this, there's stories about, counterfeits getting in there and everything. Tell me about the impact on quality and how a company like Freedom kind of guards against that.
Yeah, we work closely with a few different test facilities, Getz, Whitehorse. We also have a strong relationship with ERAI. The tighter this gets, the more risk people take, and a lot of customers are coming to us now with excess, and it's not really excess. What they're doing is trying to sell parts at a higher price. A lot of customers want to be brokers now, and the problem with that is we don't know where they got the parts from, because generally they don't have factory sealed boxes. So a lot of that is bleeding out into the market and ending up on our doorstep, and we're catching it through testing. We've actually gone to a more stringent test on everything just to protect ourselves. But with passives, we won't even quote a capacitor or resistor unless we bought it direct, because it's that bad.
Okay. So I'm familiar with the one you mentioned there, Whitehorse, over in China. So how does that work? If you're buying something in China, do you have them test it before you consummate the deal with whoever's selling it?
For sure. I mean, that's one of the things you don't want to do is bring it in the United States and then find out here that it's counterfeit, because you can't, return it. So we don't bring in anything. We have a test facility in Shenzhen, Penang Island in Malaysia, and then right across the street from Freedom here. We also deal with Whitehorse, which is in China and Hong Kong. So depending upon where parts are coming from, we try to test in that region. And Eric, that's the other part of this equation that's really put a bottleneck. Whatever I walk into and backlog for December is almost what I'm going to ship, because it takes almost 3 weeks to get things through testing because they're so backed up. No matter, we pay premiums, and it's a logjam.
Yeah. So, and again, coming back to the customers then and hearing these processes, and I think you've alluded to it. So you have some disgruntled customers, no doubt. You said you're on a lot of Zoom calls with them, kind of talking them off the ledge. How's that dynamic?
It's tough. They're not calls you want to be on, but I feel like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And they, if once they finally get comfortable, they want to blame somebody. They're not happy. And whoever's on the other end of the TV tends to get the brunt of the complaint. But I think for the most part, they're very, it's not so much about the delivery as it is the pricing, because the pricing is just crazy pricing. And in some cases there, we have to require TT money from these customers just to protect ourselves, because if we don't, and if I have a part that I'm selling to you at $220 and book cost is $14, and you can sign an NCNR with me, we can do our due diligence. But if a franchise distributor sends those parts to you, they got them in, you're going to cancel with me. So we have to try to put some protections in place, because the parts are too high and I can't afford the liability.
Right. So tell me, kind of in this environment, and you've alluded to it, and people are speculating when's it going to be over, and I won't get into that, but getting through this and the current environment, what's your best advice for manufacturers, people who are needing to get parts?
Well, two things. I don't want this to continue, because this really isn't our core business. Our core business is cost savings, lead time buys, direct manufacturers. And, it's going to come to a point that, it's not, cost effective for you to manufacture, especially if you can't get all the parts. If you can't get every single part on the board, you can't manufacture. And the contract manufacturers are struggling right now with it. So the OEMs are going out trying to scoff up inventory, and they're, consigning it with the CM. Well, the CMs don't make money that way because they make money with labor, but also with procurement. So this really is not a good long-term solution for our channel. We want product to ease back into market. And right now, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, though, because there's just too much demand. I mean, you're talking about having all electric cars by 2035. So now you've got battery chargers. You've got it's a trickle effect, and it's gonna I think that they're trying to ramp up manufacturing for the foundries and so forth, but it's going to be a while.
And, one of the things driving some of this, I think, is that whole issue of reshoring and manufacturing coming back. From your perspective, how are you seeing that trend?
I saw it. Obviously, the tariffs had a big impact. So you started seeing, manufacturing head to the Philippines and Vietnam and so forth. Definitely, I see Latin America has picked up. I see, I think we're at 35% growth I saw for Q3 compared to APAC, I think it was 24. So you do see a lot of that trickling into the United States. Everybody's busy, and that's good news. I think that trying to have it built here, I mean, that's great.
Yeah, no, hopefully it is, right? But again, that's a transition as well that will take time, and then the supply chain has to adjust to that. And
we're having trouble hiring people. I mean, I'm not very well liked with my competitors right now because in January we had to stop, selling to most distributors. And it's not because they're not good customers or good people, but it was less than 1% of our business. And I was juggling resources trying to support that, and it just didn't make sense. I can't find enough salespeople for the OEM customers that I have right now. I mean, we're constantly trying to hire warehouse, quality control, sales reps, sales assistants. So same thing with, manufacturing here. It's a struggle to hire people right now. And, I think that that's, also why people are going overseas.
Yeah. Hey, and you drew a distinction earlier in your comments between the contract manufacturer and the OEM clients there, that the contract manufacturers are really kind of stuck in the middle on all of this stuff. So is it the OEMs that you're saying that are the more difficult ones, or is it the EMS? I mean, they must be stressed out as well.
Yeah. So, again, there was a lot of cyclical, cycles in our industry for a long time. And then, after 2000, we're kind of 18 years in the desert. And now, so people aren't used to it. And they were accustomed to being able to strong arm the manufacturer saying, I need product. And now they can't. There's been a lot of consolidation with the OCMs as well. And they've obsoleted a lot of product, and they're shifting where they're profitable. And most of that's cutting edge. And if you're, trailing edge, you're not getting that support. So the CMs are coming out, they're going out, they're getting quotes, and they're getting pricing. They're going back to the OEMs. And the OEMs are taking, a few days, a few weeks to contemplate the price increase, and you're starting all over again. So the CMs are really pushing back in some cases to the OEM saying, hey, you know what, go buy parts, because, it's hard to, more times you go out and requote the same part, it turns into an auction right now. And we really advise against that. Say, pull the trigger, don't go out and requote it, or you're going to pay more.
Okay. That's excellent. That's excellent. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insights. This has been quite informative. I've enjoyed this very much. And hopefully we can catch up again in the new year and after the first quarter and see where things stand and if things are turning after the change of the year. And I'm sure there'll be new challenges coming in the new year when we hit into Chinese New Year's again. And that's always at other constraints. So.
Right. Well, thanks, Eric. I appreciate the time.
John, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much. Best of luck for the end of the year here for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.